You wake up tired. Not I stayed up way too late watching Netflix tired. I mean, you went to bed at a reasonable time and you got 7 hours or maybe even 8, and you still feel like you got hit by a truck. You drag yourself out of bed, you reach for coffee before water, and you feel foggy before you even start your day. And somewhere in the back of your mind, you tell yourself, I'm just stressed, I'm just busy. This is just what happens when you get older. But let me say something clearly to you. Getting older does not mean you feel broken. Being busy does not mean you should feel exhausted every single day. And adulthood is not supposed to feel like survival mode. What if the reason you feel terrible isn't your schedule at all? What if it's your breathing? You might not just be tired. You might have sleep apnea, and you might not even know it. Hey, I'm Brandon from Parkway Sleep, and every single week I meet people who say the exact same thing. I thought this was normal. They thought being exhausted was just part of life. They thought brain fog was just aging. They thought irritability was just their personality. And they thought high blood pressure was just genetics. And then we test them. We find moderate to severe sleep apnea, hundreds of breathing interruptions per night, and suddenly everything makes sense. So today I'm going to walk you through 12 real-world signs of sleep apnea. Not just the obvious ones, the subtle ones, the ones people normalize. And as you listen, I don't want you asking yourself, do I have all of these? I want you asking, how many of these sound like me? Because sleep apnea rarely shows up as one dramatic symptom. It shows up as a pattern. So let's start from the beginning. All right, let's start with number 1. You wake up unrefreshed even after enough time in bed. Now, this is the foundation. You're technically sleeping long enough, but you wake up feeling absolutely drained. That's your first red flag. See, sleep apnea does not usually reduce how long you sleep, but it does destroy the quality of your sleep. When your airway collapses during the night, your brain senses danger. Oxygen drops, carbon dioxide rises, your brain partially wakes up just long enough to breathe again. And you don't remember it because it happens over and over again. Sometimes 30 times per hour, sometimes 50, sometimes more. You never complete full sleep cycles. You never get deep enough sleep for long enough. You never stay in REM long enough. So you wake up feeling like you barely slept, even though you were in bed for 8 hours. And that's not a time problem, that's a breathing problem. All right, number 2 is morning headaches. You wake up with a dull, heavy pressure headache, especially across your forehead, and it fades within an hour or two. Now that matters. When your airway collapses repeatedly and oxygen drops, carbon dioxide will build up in your blood, and that chemical shift causes blood vessels in your brain to dilate. Dilated blood vessels create pressure, and pressure creates pain. It's basic physiology. Most people blame dehydration or their pillow or teeth grinding. And yeah, sometimes it is those things. But if it happens several times a week and you're always feeling unrefreshed, that combination is not random. Your brain is extremely sensitive to oxygen shifts, and sleep apnea is repeated oxygen shifts all night. Your body adapts, but unfortunately, your head pays the price in the morning. All right, let's go on to number 3. You wake up to pee multiple times. Now let's talk about that 2 a.m. hallway walk. You're getting up 2, 3, even 4 times per night, and you're not drinking excessive fluids. Now that's suspicious. When you stop breathing, your chest creates massive negative pressure trying to pull air in. And that pressure stretches out your heart. And when the heart stretches, it releases a hormone called atrial natriuretic peptide. That hormone tells your kidneys to dump fluid. So your body literally produces urine because it thinks it's under stress. Many people assume it's aging, or maybe a prostate issue, or maybe a weak bladder. And then they treat their sleep apnea, and suddenly they're sleeping through the night again. That's not magic. That's physiology stabilizing. All right, number 4, someone has told you that you stopped breathing. Now, this is one of the most important signs that you can look out for. If your partner has ever said, hey, you stopped breathing last night, you were gasping, you scared me, please, please, please do not ignore that. Now, snoring is a noise, but sleep apnea is an obstruction. Your airway collapses. Breathing literally stops. It could be 10 seconds, 20 seconds, 30 seconds, and your brain fires adrenaline to wake you up enough to breathe. So guess what? You gasp, you snort, you roll over, and it can repeat and repeat. I mean, imagine someone shaking you awake every 90 seconds all night long, literally for years. You'd feel exhausted too. And here's the scary part. Many people sleep alone and they never even know this is happening. All right, let's go to number 5. You crash hard in the afternoon. Now there's a difference between feeling a little sleepy and crashing. And when you feel heavy, foggy, irritable, and desperate for caffeine by early afternoon, that's excessive daytime sleepiness. Sleep apnea prevents that deep sleep and REM sleep. Even if you're in bed for 8 hours, you're not getting restorative sleep. Now coffee can stimulate you, but it can't replace oxygen. It can't rebuild deep sleep. And untreated sleep apnea increases motor vehicle accident risk significantly. This is not just about productivity, it's about safety. All right, on to number 6, brain fog and mood changes. Now this is where high performers start to notice something is wrong. You actually feel less sharp than you used to. You feel less patient, you're more reactive, you're more overwhelmed by things that never used to bother you. And like I've already said, sleep apnea disrupts REM sleep. REM's when your brain processes memory, regulates emotion, and resets stress hormones. Without enough REM sleep, cortisol stays elevated. Your stress tolerance drops. Your emotional resilience drops. Smaller problems are gonna feel bigger. You're gonna blame stress. You're gonna blame work or aging. And sometimes it's simply oxygen instability night after night. Number 7 is high blood pressure that won't improve. Now you're on 1, 2, or even 3 blood pressure medications and it's still high, that's a red flag. Every apnea event triggers a surge of adrenaline. Adrenaline raises your blood pressure. Now imagine that's happening 200 times per night over years of time. Sleep apnea is one of the most common causes of resistant hypertension. When you treat the breathing problem, blood pressure will often improve. It's not always going to be overnight, but you will see a meaningful change. All right, number 8 is loud chronic snoring. Snoring alone does not always equal sleep apnea, but loud, nightly, disruptive snoring, especially with pauses, is highly suspicious. Snoring means airflow turbulence. Turbulence usually means narrowing, and narrowing is the first step toward collapse. If your partner has moved rooms, or you've been recorded, or you've been elbowed awake more times than you can count, that's not a joke, that's information. All right, number 9, dry mouth in the morning. Now, if you wake up feeling like you swallowed cotton, you're probably mouth breathing all night. And mouth breathing always happens when your airway collapses and your body shifts into emergency breathing. Dry mouth is not dramatic, but it is a clue, and those clues can add up. All right, number 10 is night sweats. You wake up drenched in sweat without illness or fever, and that just might be a stress response. Sleep apnea activates your sympathetic nervous system and your fight or flight system. Your heart rate will rise, stress hormones will surge, sweating can follow. It's not random. It's your nervous system reacting to the repeated breathing interruption. All right, number 11 is teeth grinding. Now, many people with sleep apnea, they grind their teeth. It's believed to be a reflex to reopen the airway, and dentists often detect sleep apnea before physicians even do. If you wear a night guard and you're still feeling exhausted, that's just another puzzle piece. All right, and finally, number 12, low energy, low drive, and hormonal changes. Deep sleep drives hormone production. If deep sleep's fragmented, testosterone and other hormones can decline. So your energy level drops, your motivation drops, your libido drops. People will always blame aging, but sometimes it's simply that your brain never gets deep sleep. It needs to actually regulate those hormones properly. And here's the big picture. Sleep apnea rarely announces itself dramatically. It does not usually begin with a crisis. It whispers. It whispers as fatigue, as brain fog. It whispers as irritability. It whispers as blood pressure creeping upward. Then one day, it's too long and it can't be ignored. It starts to scream with AFib, with a stroke, with heart disease, as a car accident. You don't have to wait for that scream. If you recognize these 3 or 4 signs that you're seeing and you investigate, you'll find that sleep apnea is very common. It's often underdiagnosed and it's highly treatable. Testing can often be done at home. Treatment's a lot of times just straightforward. And when people get treated, they don't become superhuman. They simply feel normal again. I'm talking clear, steady, rested. Now that's life-changing. If you're in North Carolina, we help people across the state get diagnosed and treated quickly without long hospital delays. And if this sounds like you, don't normalize it. Investigate it. Because feeling exhausted should not be your baseline, and it doesn't have to be.